Hello and welcome to Final Draft, the show where I talk about the level design behind game environments. Welcome back to Guild Wars 2. It's been a long time since I've done a video of this game. I think the last one I did was just after release actually, so almost a year. Guild Wars 2 recently celebrated its first birthday. I've been enjoying the game a hell of a lot since it was released. Certainly the best value for money game I've probably bought in the last year, if not for a long time. Again, no subscription fee, new content every 2 weeks, can't really complain. So today, this video is focusing on the Dierdre Steps puzzle in Guild Wars 2. This is a secret area hidden in the game world that you have to find. The entrance to it is in the Maguma area. You have to fight a Keeper of Light, which is a special enemy. Once you kill him, a portal appears and you can get to this area. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is that it's an interesting piece of level design. The way it's structured is the entire area is just one giant vista that you get to jump around in. I mean, typically in games, vistas are kind of things you see off in the distance, are really beautiful environments, but you don't really have a lot of interactivity with it. A kind of, cardboard cutout backdrops and things like that. Not always, but a lot of the time. In Guild Wars 2, generally the vistas can be clambered around on by players 99% of the time. And this is no different here in this jumping puzzle. So this is fairly far in the game. I think the zone this is in is around a level 60 zone, I think, if I remember correctly. So the player already has a very good understanding of how their character moves, and has probably already seen a couple of jumping puzzles before this, so there's not a lot of hand-holding going on here. It's just kind of the player is left to their own devices and they have to work out how to open this thing. So Dierdre tells us that we need to collect the different elements in order to open the chest. Then the player's kind of left to work out where these elements might be. Now there are 2 of them shown in plain sight. You can see the one for water and air off in the distance in the cliffs. This is a pretty large hint to the player. And then it's not really a stretch of the imagination to kind of work out that the other 2 are probably earth and kind of fire, or sunlight in this case. So now we're just kind of left to explore around the environment and collect the 4 different elements so we can open the chest. And I apologise in advance if you suffer from any kind of vertigo, because just doing this puzzle makes my skin crawl. Something Guild Wars 2 does really well is just the sense of scale of the player in the environment. Kind of looking down from above on top of things really gets me more than perhaps any other game I've played. It's quite amazing. And so there's a lot of subtle visual clues in the environment about how you can get to these things. Generally it's kind of a lot of use of colour for the most part. So these lily pads or mushrooms, whatever you want to call them, that I'm jumping on, kind of bright yellow, which really draws the eye to them. So here's the first elemental thing that we need to collect. So this is fire, and that puts an item in our inventory. So we've got 3 more to go. And if you're good with your eyes, you'll notice there's a pair of diving goggles here on this pad. And this is just a quick way back down to the bottom after you've collected this. It's always a great idea to put shortcuts in the environment like this, especially if you have that kind of puzzle that's up high. You don't want the player to just jump down where they just came from. Feels like a bit of an anti-climax, I think.
Retreat!
Now we can go and grab the water element. And again, this is kind of denoted in the environment, so you see lots of waterfalls and things over here. There's a big pool of water as well. So everything is always kind of hinted at. And then you can see the a globule of water floating in the air up there, which is what we need to grab. Again here, although all these areas are kind of focused on jumping, that's kind of Guild Wars 2, it's its thing when it comes to puzzles. They do a lot of jumping puzzles and kind of exploring around areas. Now, this area does a couple of things to draw the player's eye. So you've got this kind of slow water trickling down the rock here, which draws the player's eye upwards. And then you've got these various plants in the environment which give off this kind of yellowy green light, which act as kind of a hot spot in the environment, which again draws the player's eye to them. Usually placed next to something the player needs to notice, like a ledge or a jump they need to reach. And it all just draws the player's eye upwards, so that they notice that they can climb up this thing and proceed to the next puzzle. As you can see, they're all placed up there. Then you've got that hot spot of orange up by the cave exit up there. Got a little bit of combat here as well. I'm still amazed that you can play Guild Wars 2 without the UI on, without any real significant nerfs to your playing ability. I still think it's amazing that you can do that. When you consider most MMOs are just a sea of hotbars and, you know, progress meters and percentages all over your screen. It's great that Guild Wars 2 gets rid of all of that. So now we've got a veteran encounter before we can grab the water element. So this guy's just a veteran level mob. Think of it as like, I suppose, an elite in World of Warcraft. So we're just going to skip ahead. Unfortunately, my character build is one for defense and regeneration rather than damage, so it takes a little while to kill these guys. I love the fact that because this entire area is just one giant vista, you're always revisiting it from different angles when you go off to the sides here to pick up these things. So you get a lot of mileage out of just a single area. Now, this is a very, very important thing to do when you're designing maps, because you can get into a habit of designing just a huge vista and then only using it once. And what that does is it takes forever to actually finish a map if you're doing that, because you have to design all these huge beautiful areas multiple times. Whereas if you just design your map in a smart way and you have lots of areas reconnecting into this giant vista, you can reuse it a lot, and players don't really mind that, as long as it's interesting all the way through. So you can see all these earth elementals around the place here, and obviously the earth element is something we're looking for. And aha, here it is. So again, it's the environment showing the player where they need to go, without any giant, you know, signs which just feel very heavy-handed. The player can just work it out for themselves. Now, I may have bit off a little bit more than I can chew here, because these guys are all veteran level enemies. So we're just going to skip ahead a little bit here. I managed to kite them around a bit and then grab the earth element while they were off doing their thing. And now we're just going to run like a baby. So we can just root them in place with a hammer and then leg it. So that's our third element, just one left now. Got to go and get air. Now, I think air is the hardest one to get of all three, because it requires a lot of precision jumping. This is the avatar puzzle, as I like to call it. You'll see why a bit later, but I imagine it's pretty obvious. So again, the air element is, you can see it clearly from down below. So it's just a case of working out how you want to get up there. As There's a little bit of combat here, which we'll just skip, because it's not really the focus of this video. So again, here you've got these blue mushrooms leading the player's eye upwards, and they're kind of showing the path that you need to take. Just with the use of colour, without any kind of obvious signs or heavy-handed, you know, showing the player what to do with a cutscene or something. Just clever use of colour will get you where you want to go.
Refreshing.
Of course, as this is an MMO, it has to have bloody spiders in it. So this is where the jumps get a little bit tricky, and a lot trickier a bit later after this. Of course, as it's me, I do screw it up, but we can just skip past that. So again, you can just follow the blue mushrooms to kind of work out the way to go. Then you've got that hot spot of colour by the exit as well, which again leads you back into this giant vista, which is absolutely beautiful. Just constantly rewarding the player with a nice view every time they complete a puzzle. It's a great idea. Now we get to the tricky part. This will probably stir up your vertigo again. It certainly did me. And this area can be fairly tricky. I mean, a lot of it's down to just the jumps are a little bit more difficult, but some of it is down to the camera in Guild Wars 2 as well, which has a couple of issues. When it's kind of next to geometry like this, it tends to like ping in and out, as you can see, which can really throw off your jumps sometimes. It's been like that since beta, I think, so I don't think they're going to change it. But it can make things a little bit tricky when you're kind of in an enclosed space like this next to a wall and you're trying to work out a decent jump. You can't quite get the angle you want for it. I love the grass here, the way it's kind of being thrown around by the wind. That looks really, really great. Again, if you screw up this puzzle here and fall, there's actually a body of water below you, which should hopefully break your fall if you aim yourself correctly. That's a nice little piece of design. It can be really annoying just falling to your death over and over if you're having trouble with the puzzle. At least here you kind of have something soft to fall into. So we just got to take out these, I think they're air elementals. Can't remember the exact name because the UI is off. So once we take care of these guys, we'll just skip ahead a bit here once we've taken them all out. And we can grab our air element. That's all four. So now we just need to make it back to the chest in the centre. And again, as there's a body of water below us, we can take a shortcut back down. So there's only one thing for it. There might be another pair of diving goggles up there somewhere, I'm not sure, but that'll do. There we are. We can grab all our loot at the end. So I think this is a great example of good level design in a puzzle, and also good level design when you're using a vista, because like I mentioned, the entire area is a vista and you're just constantly examining it from different angles, and it looks beautiful from all of them. The Guild Wars 2 still is the best looking MMO I've ever seen. It's one of the best looking games I've ever seen, never mind MMOs. So the art design in it is frankly amazing. Alright guys, that was episode 2 of Final Draft. Hit the annotation on the screen to go and watch episode 1 if you want to get caught up. And I will see you next time.